Hi, I'm Rachel Olson, founder of Best Mom Products. Today I'm talking with Jill Salzman, who, let's just say, does it all. She's a third-time entrepreneur, TED Talk speaker, author of Founded, a field guide for mom entrepreneurs, and founder of the Founding Moms in 2010, which is a collective of live and local monthly meetups where mom entrepreneurs come to exchange, connect, and learn from one another. She's also been featured recently as one of the top 50 women to watch in tech. She's written for the New York Times and a jillion other media outlets. I don't even know where we're going to start with you, Jill, because there's so much. Plus with kids, you're very accomplished. So I want to hear how you did it.
You make me feel very good about myself.
Oh, you did it all. So tell us a little bit about your background to start. You studied law,
Sure.
and so why don't you fill everyone in?
I did, but I can make it sound even funkier because I have a degree, undergrad degree in biology. I then decided to go and study law. I then decided to not use that law degree, not practice. But all along the way, I feel like I got a street version of an MBA. And I always have sort of had that entrepreneurial spark, I guess. I don't know. Those of us who are entrepreneurs know exactly what I'm talking about. And so, from the get-go, I was trying out my own things, and I officially launched my first company in 2005, which was pretty much immediately after graduating from law school, when I said, I don't want to be stuck in a law firm all day. I'm going to go out and start a music management company.
Yeah, that is wild. So how did you get into music management?
Right out of college, before going to grad school, I was desperate to work in the record business, in the music business. So I begged my way into a job doing the coolest gig out of college called A&R, which is basically a scout to go out and listen to music and find the next big thing. And if you've heard of Jason Mraz, he would not be famous if it was not for me.
Oh, my God.
I like to say that because I'm not getting any royalties from that, so that's pretty much my claim to fame. But yeah, and then right after working in New York doing record label stuff for a few years and getting burned out and going off to law school, I kind of got sucked back in. The music business is very, very addictive. So I thought, I've never done anything managing bands, nothing having to do with that at the label, so why don't I start managing bands? So that's how I got started. And I did that for a couple years and started up my second business while I was managing bands, because when your bands are out on tour, you're making some money as their manager, but when they're in the studio recording an album, you're not making much. So I thought, I need a little hobby business so that I can make some money on the side.
Okay, and is that where the Bumble brand came into play? Okay, so why don't you tell everyone what Bumble Bells are and about that?
Sure, yeah. Bumble Bells are officially audible anklewear for babies and toddlers. And the story is that in 2007 I gave birth to my first kiddo, and she received a gift. I wish I had one to show you. It's a small sterling silver anklet with little bells on it. So when you slide it onto a baby's ankle, you can hear them toddling around when they wake up from their nap. You can hear them waking up from their nap because they're moving. It's very sweet, very cute. People always ask, but that sounds so annoying. It was never annoying, and my current 2-year-old is wearing them, and nobody seems annoyed. It's very cute. So I started that in '07, literally threw up a website and thought, why don't I see if they sell? If it takes off, it takes off. With really no big plans, no business plan. And it just started selling and selling some more, and I just gunned it with the PR and publicity. And so it kind of blew up after Gwen Stefani put him on her baby.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I want to hear that story. And a few things come to mind when you're telling me the story. One is you imported this product. So you saw an opportunity. You received this as a gift, and you thought, wow, this is great. And so were they not being sold in the U.S. at this time?
I looked around when I received it from some family members in Thailand and thought, a lot of my friends are asking me for them. Maybe let me just go check out and see if I can buy it for them in a store. I couldn't find them. I did some web research. Turns out there were variations on it, but nothing is high quality, nothing is fantastic, and nothing with the name that we gave it that I trademarked called Bumble Bells. So I thought, I have some family in Thailand. Let me see if they can just ship me some before it becomes official importing. And they did, and that sort of, it was a slow build, but it was pretty fantastic by the end. Pretty great.
Yeah. How did you go about that? How did you get your first customers for that? And what kind of PR did you do? If this is around 2007, 2008?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. So here I started, I didn't know anything about selling a product, so it was a year of understanding what retail's like, how to price an item, what does wholesale mean, and, doing a big fat trade show when I wasn't really ready for it in Las Vegas, and really messing up for an entire first year, trying things out, and talking a lot to customers and figuring out what they were looking for, what kind, I had my favorite style of Bumble Bell with a cute little pattern on it, and I thought, of course, everybody else was going to love what I love, and as any business owner knows, it never goes that way, so it was everybody's least favorite. So I learned a lot in the first year, and then I really ramped up PR, which just means I reached out to a lot of magazines, online blogs, and said, hey, I'm in enough stores now, you should pay attention to me. And reaching out and doing publicity and press was very different than how we reached the celeb, because the celeb basically had a set of parents who moved next door to my cousins. And I said, hey, if I ship these to you, would you walk them next door? And magically, they walked them next door, and even more magically, Gwen Stefani's parents gave her my little gift with a note that said, please put them on baby Zuma. And Gwen did it. I still can't believe she did it. But she put them on baby Zuma. She was walking around with the babe. Paparazzi shot them. So there's a photo of Gwen and her baby and my little Bumble Bell that you can see very clearly. Perez Hilton put it on his website, circled the Bumble Bell, identified it.
Okay.
So I rolled that straight into, hey, People Magazine, want to feature the celeb endorsing my product.
Oh, very interesting. So did you go ahead and contact people? Or did you just say you contacted people to go ahead?
Oh,
no.
I said magazine and you say people, and I'm thinking, what people?
Oh.
I actually know at the level of People Magazine, I did not know anyone, and it didn't seem like the kind of, hey, email us off the website and we'll surely get back to you type of folks. So I happened to know a publicist who lived in LA and had a contact at People. And so I begged her, she begged them, they finally said yes. It sounds a lot like luck and magic, and I'm sure there was hard work involved, but it was just, everything came together. So that helped us. You know what? When that came out in People Magazine, I thought I would be able to retire, and I was done for the rest of my life. It doesn't happen that way. We were quite profitable for about 6 months after that hit, and People Magazine stays around in dentist offices and doctor's offices, so a few months after the big surge, it was, sales were still coming in quite a bit, but about a year later, we could have been wiped off the planet and nobody would have noticed.
That's so fascinating. That's really fascinating because I like to kind of focus on the business behind that. So for you, that was a great bump. So what did you do after that? And then I want to talk to you a little bit about, kind of the reason why you decided to sell it and that process a little bit.
Sure. After the People bump, for me, publicity is a constant roller coaster ride of trying to get the next hit. So after People happened, I would take that and I'd just keep leveraging. Oh, now that we've been in People, hey, would you, next publication, like to feature us? And a lot of big publications said, no, thank you. And you just keep trying. And I kept asking, but not long after our surge died from the People Magazine hit, I sort of had a realization that I hated selling products.
Wow.
Yeah, and you know what? I feel like it's a very honest thing to tell folks, because I started out in a service-based business. I then moved on to product-based. And the parts that I love about a service-based business, I missed. And so having sold this product, I thought, you know what? This is for somebody who really loves products and can get into increasing the actual products. The thing that I am the worst at is coming up with new styles, coming up with new flavors, new types of, I have no creativity in that area. So I thought, you know what, we had 4 styles of Bumble Bells. We needed a whole new line of jewelry. We needed some add-ons. We were selling what I called Bumble Booties, which were crocheted little booties with bells on them. I added a couple things here and there, but I thought, you know what, somebody could really take this and run with it. Mm-hmm. So that's when it occurred to me, maybe I need to sell this and hand it off to somebody else and come up with another product I might like better. I also, you can't really tell, but I'm not a big jewelry gal either. So it was kind of a really lucky thing to fall into. And, it turned out I discovered this is not totally for me. I think I'd be much happier selling cookies because I can eat them.
Yeah.
So,
But that's very valuable and very important for people to hear, because you can go down a path where you have success and you had a good amount of success with that, and realizing like, oh my gosh, I put in all this effort, this is successful, but you know what? The reality is this isn't for me. Whereas some people, even if they realized it wasn't for them, would just continue just because and so I feel like that's the very entrepreneurial spirit of you, and just from what I know of you, you're very down to earth, very reality based, and honest. And I had
one of the luckiest breaks anybody could ever wish or pay for, and I still thought, you know what, this isn't for me, because long term this will just crash hard.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
So
how did you find somebody to buy your company?
I started out looking on those basic websites like Craigslist. I started posting pretty basic places. And this is going to be a little embarrassing that for the life of me, I can't remember what site I actually ended up selling it on. And hopefully it will come to me. But it's such a fantastic site.
So was it like a business broker site? Like somebody has mentioned like businesses for sale, something like that type of site?
It's kind of like that. I had an ad up on, it's probably called that website. No, this one is slightly newer. And you know what? It might have just been a timing thing. Like I had posted it on yet another website. I posted it as many places as I could. Locally, I tried really hard because I thought I could meet with them in person, and I ended up having several meetings locally. But it just so happened that a woman in California landed upon my ad on this site that I can't remember, and she contacted, and after having gone through many, many, many buyers who had, asked me for numbers and files and worksheets, and can you give me sales projections and past, kind of giving them everything that I had ever had, this woman said, "How much do you want for your company?" And I said, "Well, I am ready and armed with every document you would ever want." And she said, No, how much do you want for your company? And I told her, and she said, "Okay."
Just like that?
Just like that. Yeah, so after 9 months of meeting with people and coming up with documents, I paid 2 consultants $500 to come up with a beautiful packet of documents that made us look incredible. It made me go, wow, I want to buy the company. And she didn't request a single document. And hey, you know what? Anyone can sell a business is what I learned in that experience. Anyone can sell a business. It just takes the right buyer.
Right.
So,
that's fascinating to me. Yeah. So did you find out about her background? Did she have a lot of other online stores in her background? Why was she so interested in this particular business?
She liked the website. I don't even believe she had kids. You know what? I don't know much about her because the exchange was so quick.
Wow.
She sent over some money. I sent her over some Bumble Bells. We were done.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so we didn't really even have a get to know, and she was in California.
Yep.
So I wished her much luck, and I don't even know what's going on now.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, congratulations.
Thank you. You can too.
Okay, so everyone can sell a business.
Yes.
So this was 2011, correct?
Yes, you are good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I do my research. We talked before.
So much easier to chat with you. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to switch gears a little bit. That was your second entrepreneurial venture. And
yes.
while you're doing this, it sounds like you also started the Founding Moms, the local monthly meetup group. Yes. And this story is fascinating, and I want to tell everybody who's listening, if you want to hear this story in depth and all the good stuff, you can really go, I'm going to refer them to your TED Talk.
Awesome. Thank you.
Because your TED Talk I found so interesting, entertaining, and I loved all of that stuff.
Very much.
Yeah, but I feel like, I don't want you to have to repeat I wanted people to get a good feel for your background who might not have seen that.
Sure.
So I want to talk to you about, first of all, how did you become a TED Talk speaker?
Real easy. There was a friend locally who said, hey, there's a TEDx organizer who's looking for speakers. And so I applied, And I said, I really want to tell my story. And he said, let's meet for coffee. And over coffee, I said, I want to tell everyone why moms make the best entrepreneurs, because of certain reasons that had happened along the way building the Founding Moms. And he fortunately agreed and was fantastic. And
yeah, that's awesome. I feel like you've mentioned this a little bit. You are from everything I know of you, you're a networking guru. I mean, I feel like at every point you're
but I love to network.
Yeah, you do. Well, you're very personable. It definitely seems just like it's a natural trait for you.
Yes, absolutely.
You said in your TED Talk that moms make the best entrepreneurs because they make it up as they go, and innovation as a fancy word. So I really see, and tell me if you agree or you don't agree, that your third venture, the Founding Moms, it's really built on networking. It's all about networking and connecting. So tell us how you got this idea and executed on it, because it blew up pretty much.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Blew up in a good way.
You know what? It's the first business that I ever started that I didn't intend to have this business. I was running my music management company and then started the Bumble Bells, and I think I was pregnant with my second child and sick of working in my home office. You can see my very messy home office. And for years, I just never left. I thought, well, email, phone, why would I waste my time going to meetings? And you're right. I'm totally an extrovert. I love to meet with people, but I thought, I'm too busy. I'm running businesses. I'm not going anywhere. So I think pregnant with my second kid, I had gone to a women's networking event. That was the expensive type of rubber chicken eating, suit wearing, not for me type of event. And, very pregnant. It was just too formal. I thought, you know what? I'm desperate to connect with women who are not as formal, not older. They were generally older than me. And who just had babies and had their own companies. It's so funny to say now, 2 and some years later, that I didn't know any, but I didn't know any at the time. So I was on meetup.com for some reason, and I thought, why don't I start a coffee thing here in Oak Park, Illinois? And I invited anybody who wanted to just chat. So there's a local coffee shop downtown. We met. There were about 5 of us at the beginning, and I thought, oh my God, glorious, 5 people. And, it grew really fast. About 6 months in, we were 200 strong online. Wow. And one woman came up to me at the Oak Park meetup. We're, by the way, 4 miles outside of Chicago. And she said, Jill, could you start up a chapter of this in Chicago? I hate driving all the way to Oak Park. So I said, sure. And when I went to meetup.com to open up another one, I thought, well, wait a second, I can open one up anywhere. And so I'm from the East Coast. And I had lived in LA going to grad school, so I thought, why don't I start it in those 2 cities, see if it works. And then it did. And by the way, at the beginning we were called the Momtrepreneur Meetup, which no one can pronounce, and I don't know why we were called that. But so once I realized about a year into just doing it casually as just, hey, I want to connect with other women while I'm running my 2 businesses, I thought, you know what, this could be a business. There are a lot of women who need to meet up. So, that to contribute to what we were talking about previously, that probably also contributed to, it's time to sell Bumble Bells, it's time to close up Paperwork Media. And so I thought I need to focus on this full time because I've never done something as big as this. So we're 2 years in formally, deciding we are not the Momtrepreneur Meetup, but we're the Founding Moms. And we're at 31, soon to be 33 cities.
Wow.
And about 3,000 members so far. And it's awesome. It's awesome. It's great.
Yeah, I think it's awesome too because I attend the San Francisco meetup. So,
so Stephanie and I've never given her a hug in real life. So.
I do. We met for coffee. She actually lives like 15 minutes from me. So I know it's great because we're both in the East Bay. So it's been awesome, very valuable, and so I'm curious when you're doing something like this. What is your business model? I noticed recently you launched like an online community. It's like you're growing, you're managing all of these cities, and I know a lot of people are struggling with this. Like, how do you make money from it?
Right. Well, this is the first business I've launched where I didn't have a plan, and I still kind of don't. I know in my heart of hearts this will be big and a big moneymaker, but it's not right now. We're not really monetizing in a big way. So we have sponsorship that covers the majority right now of our income. And this online community, we only launched it 2 months ago, which will hopefully become very profitable, but it's just launched, so we're just starting out. But I refuse to charge anybody who comes to my meetups. And so each of the Founding Moms exchanges, which is what we call our meetups, has their own host. So certain hosts in certain cities have said, in my city it won't work unless I charge $5 a head. So for example, our New York City host, she refuses to do it unless she charges. And I think that's wonderful. She knows her city. She knows the temperature. But in the meantime, the meetups are actually just come and hang out. It's not really monetized yet.
Right. Okay, no, but that's interesting to hear. I mean, I think that's how most startups start. You ask you something, and this is also, because I just started my newsletter, which, by the way, thank you. I read your newsletter tip.
Good. You should. Everyone should. Everyone listening.
So I'm asking you for free advice here, but I know it applies to everyone listening too. How did you get your first sponsors for your newsletter? Did you approach them? Did they approach you?
Anything I ever start out doing, I approach them.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked a couple of companies, and it was so long ago now, I don't remember who they were, but, I started out asking for very little money. And they said, sure, of course, we'd love to. And at the time, I think I had about 200 people on the list.
Okay.
But the size of those businesses, it was worth it for them to, head out to 200 businesses. So slowly but surely, right now, I don't believe I'm doing much seeking, and I'm looking possibly to hire somebody to help me do that. But so now, if you notice anybody big time in the newsletter, they've come to me and asked to be featured, because I think the list is big enough, it's starting to get noticed, and making more money from it. So it's really nice. Yeah.
What is that tipping point? I'm curious. At what point did you feel like people started seeking you out versus you seeking them?
There is none, and I actually once upon a time researched and tried to find out numbers and what's the subscriber number I'd have to hit, or what's the magic open rate. I didn't even know what an open rate was. And there doesn't seem to be one. It depends on your industry. It depends on, I think, who you are, what you're offering. So, once we hit about 500, I felt very confident. Which is funny now that we have 3,000, but at 500 I was like, oh, we are off and running. And I can look at old emails and see that when I was pitching via email, which is pretty much how I pitch everybody, it just said in there, like, oh, we're 500 strong. And it kind of reads now like, oh, you poor thing. But at the time I thought it was great. So, and I get a lot of no's. I get, 90 no's and 1 yes all the time. So.
Okay, so
yes.
so let me ask you, so the Founding Moms. So if somebody wants to get involved and start a Founding Mom in their city, is that something that they can do? Do they contact you?
Yes. Oh, please. Yes. There's even a button on the homepage of foundingmoms.com that says start one. And if you just love to network, love to connect with folks, and turn into a local hero in the way of entrepreneurship. Really, it just takes emailing me and connecting with me, and we will get you off and running with your own meetup page and Founding Moms Exchange.
Great. And so I noticed, how do you manage all this? Because I noticed, you're checking in, I'm on the Facebook page of the San Francisco local moms, so we're all connected there, and you're on that too. Are you on as part of every single city? Are you...
Every city is different. So you are in San Francisco, where there's a Facebook page for San Francisco. Most of our Founding Moms exchanges don't have a Facebook page.
Okay.
Like Stephanie created.
Okay.
So that's why it looks like I can be everywhere all the time. Okay. A lot of cities are missing that. I leave a lot up to the hosts, and they sort of take over and run their exchange however they want to. Which is a wonderful bonus for them, but then I'm sort of adjusting to how everybody's doing everything everywhere. So yeah, that's kind of why we launched the forum 2 months ago, because all the folks in San Francisco know each other in San Francisco and don't realize I could tap somebody in Atlanta or Seattle or New York. So that's why I launched the forum. But generally speaking, I am on the computer a lot. I'm on social media a lot.
Yes.
Enjoy it. I mean, I totally enjoy it. It fuels my biz. So
right. No, connecting. And so I wanted to ask you also about, you have almost 12,000 Twitter followers. How does one get that many followers?
I think I've been on Twitter more than 3 years now.
Okay.
So I was on it way early, and I was on it in the day where, when I first started, you could just follow 1 million people on someone else's list, and Twitter would not penalize you yet. I think if you do that now, they suspend your account or do horrible things to you. I don't know. But at the time, I collected a lot of people when I didn't even understand what I was doing.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I was so curious.
It was a jump start, but you know what? A lot of it is just tweeting at other people a lot. So instead of being one of those tweet folks who just tweet quotes or titles to articles, that's lovely, but a lot of it has to be back and forth. And I noticed that the folks who have 50,000 followers, almost their entire feed is just back and forth with other people.
That's interesting. That's good advice. So they're really engaged in like relationship building rather than just pushing information out there.
Those of us who use Twitter as a news feed or as a way to get new information, they're really annoying because all it is thank you so much at so-and-so. So it's sort of a toss-up. So I try to do 50-50, but...
Okay. Out of all social media, which outlet have you found to be the most valuable and why?
For all businesses altogether, I have found it to be most valuable on Twitter because I have had the most offline contacts, friendships, business relationships, sponsors, partners, all through Twitter. I find it's much easier to contact and get response from reporters on Twitter. But in terms of if you're seeking hits to your blogs or you just click-throughs back to your website, Facebook hands down. And I'm not a huge Facebook fan, so I don't spend a ton of time on there. And if I did, maybe I'd get more out of it. Obviously, it's like kindergarten. What you put into it, you get out of it. It's Twitter, but I find that if you message a potential reporter or sponsor on Facebook, it's weird. But if you do it on Twitter, it's completely culturally acceptable to do that. So I love Twitter.
Okay, great.
I'm very much an early adopter trying to meet new people all the time. So that's maybe why it works for me.
No, that's great advice. So I wanted to ask you, I just read about your recent blog on Idea Mensch or posting, and it said that you were going to be launching a 2-day conference in Chicago. Is that accurate?
I have a funny story about that. In terms of, this just relates to all of marketing and publicity. That was it feels like that was ages ago. That was probably a year and a half ago. I was going to launch it. And long time ago. And in order to launch the conference, I contacted, who was it? I contacted our local news station, WGN in Chicago. And I said, could I come on and promote this conference we're going to have? I went on and I promoted it and I talked about tips for mom entrepreneurs, lovely, and they put a little ticker at the bottom that advertised the conference. We never put the conference on. No one ever bought tickets. So the conference actually never happened, but I got a phone call about 2 or 3 weeks after I was on WGN from NBC Chicago that said, we saw you were talking on WGN about your conference. Would you mind writing for us and becoming a columnist for NBC Chicago because you look like an expert on mom entrepreneurship? So I am, to this day, a columnist for NBC Chicago from something I promoted that never happened.
Oh my God, I love it. I
know.
Thank you. So, that is an amazing story.
You never know. I know. It's amazing. You never know. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that because it's funny. I was researching this yesterday and it said July 9th and it didn't give a year. And I thought, oh my.
When you say Idea Mensch, I actually thought, didn't that site shut down like a year ago or something? But I guess it's still up if you found it.
I think it's still up. I think I just read another article on it, like why with Idea Mensch they had like the majority of, they needed more women on there. So I think I just read it and then I thought, oh wow, I got late breaking news for my interview with Jill tomorrow and here it is.
We're not throwing a conference anytime soon, although if I need a new writing gig, we will launch a conference. No, there's nothing coming up anytime soon. I'm doing a lot of speaking at upcoming conferences that other people are putting on. So
okay, well that's still a great story. I wanted to ask you. So you're part of Tori Johnson's Spark and Hustle, which is a conference for mom entrepreneurs. Tell me, how did you get involved with that? What has the result been?
I got involved. Well, I've known Tori via email, not personally, for some time, and she's appeared in my newsletter. I think I've appeared in hers. Friends, kinda, friends, and I don't think I pitched her. It was somebody who had seen me speak at a Chamber of Commerce somewhere in Illinois who wrote and said, hey, I'm volunteering for this conference. And I said, oh, you are? Hey, you want to find out if they need any speakers? So she asked, and I got an invite pretty much 10 minutes after she asked them. And I didn't realize she turned it into a 20-city tour this year. So I said, can I do a couple cities? And she said, sure. And so I did Minneapolis last month, and I'm doing Chicago and Detroit at the end of this month. And it's a fab day for women in business.
It is. It's coming to San Francisco next week. I have some appointments set up, but I was debating if I should change it and try and go. What was the result? I mean, you spoke. Did you also get to hang around and talk with a lot of the entrepreneurs?
What? I actually was on a panel, so I don't feel like I even spoke. It was just sort of a Q&A. And it depends, I guess, on your purpose for going. I loved it because as a speaker, I got a table to sell my book. And I was able to just chat with all day long and say, hey, we have a Founding Moms Exchange in Minneapolis. Care to join? So for me, it was tremendous in many ways.
Okay.
And I did experience the same thing in Chicago and the same thing in Detroit. And if I could go to San Francisco, I would. But, I bet you the vibe is very different in each city. And I'm really looking forward to Chicago and Detroit to see how different it is.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned your book, so I wanted to get to that. What made you, and your book launched in 2012, I wanted to know what made you decide to write a book, and how long did it actually take you? All right, there it is.
No shame, people.
I love it.
I completely wasn't listening to your first question.
Okay, so I said, what made you decide to write this book, and how long did it take you to write it?
I decided upon reading Jason Fried's book Rework. If anybody listening has not read it, must read it. It is a fantastic business book. I read it and I thought, this is so fantastic, but there's nothing like this for moms or for women in business. It was written by two guys. So while it was very valuable, I thought I could do this for my membership. So it was kind of like what you hear in the movies. I got up in the middle of the night one night, grabbed a pad and a pen, and I made a list of 50 chapters that I had in mind, and I jotted all the titles down. And so the book idea was pretty much gelled in those 10 minutes. I went back to bed. I then wrote out, each chapter is really not very long. They're like 2 pages a pop. So I just sort of scribbled out my ideas, and the key to writing a book really is the editor. If anyone is thinking of writing a book, it's really not about the writing. It's about the editor. So I hired an editor who really helped me. The book writing took me all of 6 weeks, but the editing took many, many months.
Okay.
Of fine-tuning, getting it right, and then having a graphic designer design, all the work going into, publishing the book.
Right. So did you have a publisher who wanted to publish the book for you? How did that process work?
Immediately upon making that list of chapters, I contacted agents galore. And I found one pretty quickly who said, I'd love to shop this around for you. She spent about a year shopping it. She is a fantastic agent, but what the publishers kept telling her was that, hey, we keep looking at books in the same category, and they're not doing so well, so we're not interested. So I thought I could wait another year till somebody is interested, or I could do what I keep telling all entrepreneurs to go do it myself. But I also wanted to get this into every bookstore nook and cranny around the country, and you can't, it's very hard to do that without calling each bookstore as an independent publisher. So I heard from a bookstore owner about a distributor who could distribute me all over the country, even onto Amazon, everywhere. I applied to the distributor, and the distributor said, we are not going to accept any independent publishers. We don't take self-publisher if you have a publishing company. So I created a publishing company, essentially.
What? What?
And I applied as the publishing company. So if you get the book on the back, I don't know if you can see it here, is a little logo, and it says Pagat Press. I named it Pagat Press. My 3-year-old walked around banging her forehead going, I bought.
Oh my God.
So it looks like it's not my company and a publisher published me. And that's how I got in. The distributor now distributes my book. So I sort of, gamed the system?
Oh my God.
but it's totally legit and legal. Totally legit. So that's it. And they have told me in the business book world, it's about a year between each book. So coming soon, I'll start writing the next one. We'll see.
Oh my God. So that's fascinating to me. I mean, you really work the system in every way. I feel like I feel like no one could ever say no or that's not a possibility. Like, you would find a possibility. You created your own publishing company.
Yeah.
Okay, so I feel like we could talk for like 10 hours at least about all of these different things. But I know that we're limited on time, so I wanted to so I wanted to ask you one more question and then kind of a few closing questions.
Sure.
What I wanted to know is, I mean, you definitely seem like your best advocate. So have you ever hired a PR person? What are your thoughts?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I have. Well, when I was... I can take you through all three companies. When I was managing bands, I used to hire publicists for them. So I was very familiar with publicity, but I ended up doing publicity for my bands better than what the publicists we hired were doing. So I became a publicist, and that sort of helped me quite a bit there. So I started doing publicity from what I knew from paperwork, doing it for the Bumble brand. And only for a couple of big publications like People. Mm-hmm. I guess you'd call it hiring. I gave them a little bit of money to try to land a big spot.
Right.
And if they landed it, I paid them.
Okay.
So that was really for high-end People Magazine. I'm trying to think of other ones. Really, really major magazines. And then for the Founding Moms, the only time I have ever hired a publicist was when my book came out.
Okay.
But they're called Raw Marketing, and they were more of a marketing company than a traditional publicist. So they help quite a bit online, where traditional magazines, not as much. And I worked with them for a couple months when the book came out, and I'm back to me, myself, and I.
All right, awesome. No, you are the best idea or PR. What does the future hold? Where would you like to see the Founding Moms or any other venture go?
I would love to see the Founding Moms in every corner of the universe. Doesn't sound too grandiose. But I really, anywhere that there are mom entrepreneurs who need to get away from the kids or bring the kids and meet other women, there are so many of us, it's ridiculous. So I'd love it to be all over the world, as many places as possible. And I'd love to be earning money from it one day.
Yeah.
Some big money. But that's pretty much where I'd like to see. I do actually have another company in mind for the first time in a very long time. So it's all the way for a while.
Is that very driven? What drives you?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know. I love doing what I do, and I am so fortunate to be able to do it. And figure out how to make money from nothing is quite a feat. So I love it. My parents were very hardworking folks. They are immigrants, worked really hard, and I think just taught me the basic values of hard work and patience and persistence. So if anything, I am persistent.
Persistent, I love it.
So I don't know what drives me, but everything and everyone.
That's awesome. Thank you. Jill, I definitely appreciate you. Oh, thank you. I appreciate you coming on. You're so energetic, and I love that you're just so honest and candid. And
Thanks.
So glad that you started this, because now I have a whole new group of women that I can relate to. I tell my husband, I say, you have your good friends and your, the kids that, the families that your kids go to school with, and I said, I have found my people.
Awesome.
Mom entrepreneurs are my people.
Hey. I feel exactly the same way, and every month that I go, it's like I'm not really running it, because it's just an amazing group of women running itself. So
right, that's awesome. So thank you, and I just want to say in closing that for anybody who's listening or watching this and you find it valuable, you can see more videos like this with mom entrepreneurs at www.bestmomproducts.com, and I'm also going to include a link to Jill, your the Founding Moms site, and where they can get a copy of your book if they are interested. So